I'm not sure that Reactor has a kind of a massive impact in the kind of the art world as a whole, but I'm not quite sure who does.
Reactor came about as a merger of two studio groups in 2002. Happened to be in the same building in Nottingham, and through conversations started organising events together with a view to create a large event that took over most of the building that we were in, including the two studios and other spaces that were available at that time. And that event was called Reactor.
So it was a kind of gradual process rather than being a decision to form a group that was called Reactor. Reactor was a collection of individuals who worked together in order to stage events within which individuals produce work within them. And over time that's become less and less interesting, to the point at which Reactor became more of a kind of collective entity that only produces Reactor's work. Now Reactor is 3 core individuals, 3 people that are involved in all aspects of what Reactor does. But of those 3 people, only myself is based in Nottingham, Dan's in Manchester and Jonathan's in London. So a lot of Reactor's work is now done in a remote sense. Everything's done via the internet rather than in physical ways. The 3 people involved have a much clearer idea of what Reactor is than perhaps was present in the early days, in the sense that Reactor is seen almost as a kind of 4th individual within the group. So the 3 of us understand what Reactor would do in most situations. So a lot of conversations are about whether it's interesting to place Reactor in that situation and what would Reactor do in that situation. Although the events beforehand had always revolved around some element of interactivity or participation, Total GHAOS was the first time we achieved a self-sustaining system where it didn't require us to continually make other people do things. The system had, it was functioning of its own accord, and we were simply other members within the system.
We've just had a report of some mobile phone usage within the world, which of course is strictly prohibited. Outside communication with the old world is absolutely forbidden, as it no longer exists, and therefore we'll be dealing with the situation very severely.
Yeah, like Nicky was saying, in the process of developing GHAOS, we were trying to break down this division between audience and performer. Yeah, there was no outside perspective that you could stand and watch from. You were either involved in the action or you weren't there at all.
Some of the problems that we found early on were that people are very nervous about performing if they feel that they're being picked out from a group and are performing for others. Yeah. But if people are in a situation where everybody's behaving in a way which could be deemed to be a performance, then they're happy or perhaps unhappy not to behave like that. We quite often get a question about whether Reactor is kind of visual arts or kind of performing arts, or is it kind of theatre? Is it theatre?
Well, it's not quite.
Even though we have no theatrical ability whatsoever, there is this question of how it relates to theatre, and obviously within theatre there's all of these kind of conversations about kind of new theatre and theatre that doesn't exist in the theatre and these kind of ideas. So this kind of use or employing of the audience as performers takes Reactor into that kind of sphere. So I think that Reactor is in a lot of different areas and isn't necessarily that welcome in any of them, I think.